Hey everyone, I'm Jesse,
Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm a meat popsicle.
and this is Boring Conversation.
Welcome to Boring Conversation, a Malifaux podcast.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Boring Conversation. I'm Jesse,
I'm Adam.
and we're going to talk about Malifaux.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So, I guess just to kind of kick things off, I mean, as per usual with any podcast, we're going to give you guys a brief rundown of our wargaming history and what brought us to Malifaux and where we are now. So, Adam, why don't you take us away?
Okay. I'm playing tabletop games, war games, for over 25 years. Started with Warhammer Fantasy when I was a youngin'. Played that all the way up until the end times, and when we were duped into buying cool new armies. Then I moved over to War Machine and Hordes because there were a bunch of people in my shop playing that. I played that competitively for a couple of years, um, and then I started finding problems with it being imbalanced, and that's when a local store owner actually introduced me to Malifaux, talking about the balance issues of War Machine and how they didn't really translate over into Malifaux. And I played it, and in one demo game, I was just in love with it. The card mechanic, being able to um, control certain things of the game, the objective style scoring. It was all new at that time. This was about 6 years ago. I came in early second edition, probably the second book. First master was Lynch, and I didn't look back from there. Every year I play a different faction now. So far I've played Ten Thunders, and then I went into Resurrectionists, then into Neverborn. Guilds was my first faction for third edition. This year I played Arcanists, and now I'm moving on.
Great. Yeah, that's kind of a similar background to me. I started playing minis games. Geez, I think the first minis game I ever would have played, not including, I kind of consider Hero Quest to be like my gateway drug to just gaming in general, as I'm sure a lot of people do. But the first minis game that I ever remember playing would have been in junior high. So we're probably talking like 1993. Yeah, around 1993, 94. And that would have been Battletech. Um, Battletech's kind of remained a lifelong passion of mine through video games, tabletop games, and what have you. I actually just recently received my Battletech Clan Invasion Kickstarter pledge and bought way too many awesome little mechs that I'm very much looking forward to getting to get on the table if I can actually find somebody to play with me locally. Um, Otherwise, they'll just sit and look pretty. So yeah, I played BattleTech for off and on for a while. Ended up working at one of the local game stores while I was in college, and started playing 40K a little while before that. Would have been about sophomore year of high school. Played Tyranids in 40K. It's the only army I owned for that. And in fantasy, I played Skaven mostly, and a little bit of Lizardmen, which Adam is now the proud owner of some of. Enjoy those, Adam. And it's funny because I had like I don't know, like a 3 to 4, maybe 5 year hiatus where I wasn't playing any tabletop games whatsoever because I moved out of state and didn't bring any of my stuff with me. I just left it at my parents' place. And when shortly after I came back from living out of state, a couple of years later, I was going to a local gaming store to play a game of fantasy with a mutual friend of ours, Jared. He was kind of getting me back into whatever edition of the game it was at that time, and I set my stuff up on the table, and one of the regular players is playing this weird game where he has a handful of cards, like he's playing with cards instead of dice, and I'm like, The fuck is this? This is stupid. Why are they using cards? Why aren't they using dice? Well, come to find out, it was Malifaux, and little did I know, but probably not more than a year later, I was completely hooked. Jared, that same mutual friend, gave me a demo game, and I very quickly realized how deep the game would be, and I could tell it was going to be the game for me for a whole bunch of reasons. But yeah, 6 years later, here we are. It's the first truly competitive game that I've ever played. All the other tabletop games I've played have been very casual. I'm very happy to say that this is the first one that I've taken seriously. So yeah.
It's nuts to think that we've actually known each other for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Me, you, Jared. We have several other friends. We have a gaming group called the Knights of the Round Base, and we've pretty much just been friends for, like I said, 2 decades. One of our friends now owns one of the stores we play at.
Yeah,
He became a game store owner, and it's crazy to think that for
two of them. We have two friends that
yeah,
own
no
gaming
kidding,
stores.
right? Yeah,
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 yeah. How about that?
John and Danny. But it's crazy to think that more than half of my life I've been playing games with you guys, and it's been great friendships. I've developed most of my friendships through gaming, and it's really awesome to think about that.
Yeah, definitely. Especially where a lot of the people that we've met through these hobbies are probably not people that we would have met otherwise. I mean, if not for gaming and spending time at Grandmaster, the old gaming store that you know used to be our only LGS, like you and I never even would have met. There's no way.
No, probably not.
Yeah, pretty wild. So yeah, that's the long, boring story of how we got into gaming. So moving on, before we jump into the Malifaux discussion, Adam, what are you drinking today?
Well, sir, today I'm going with my most basic of drinks. I have myself a Tito's and cranberry. I wanted to do something different, but then I realized all I had left was Tito's and maybe like a mouthful of gin. So I decided to go the Tito's route, and we had some extra cranberries. So I'll promise something more exciting for next time. But for right now,
Seems
I'm going
a
to be the basic bitch.
seems a solid choice. You can get white girl wasted on that.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, for real.
How about you?
um, so one thing that I may have mentioned on a couple of other podcasts that I've been on is that my one other hobby is homebrewing. Homebrewing beer, wine, cider, mead, all that good stuff. So tonight I am drinking a Margarita Gose. And Gose is a German ale style with salt and coriander. German ales are fairly rare. Anybody who's into beer probably knows that most German beers are lagers. I won't get into the differences between the two of those, but suffice it to say, it's a German ale with salt and coriander. And I was trying to figure out ways to kind of augment that flavor. And I thought to myself, well, coriander is kind of a citrusy flavor. It already has salt in it. It's a low gravity, kind of sparkling, bubbly beer. So why don't I add some tequila and make it into a margarita? So I added some tequila that I had aged in a mason jar with some toasted oak cubes and some lime peels. And yeah, there we go. This is what's left over from what I made for the summer. So cheers.
Okay, cheers. Click.
Indeed. So to kind of get talking about Malifaux, get to the meat of the episode here. Um, I kind of want to talk about what we've been playing. So, I mean, unsurprisingly, with COVID, we haven't gotten maybe as many games in as we would have. But frankly, I feel like our play group has been doing a pretty good job of staying active. I mean, we really haven't even had to dip into the Vassal game again in quite a few months. We've gotten a good number of live games in. So, I mean, I play primarily Bayou. I do have my toes dipped into a couple of other factions, but for the vast majority of my games lately, I've been sticking to Bayou, and I've actually been trying a lot of Ulix. Um, he's definitely got some gaps. He's got a lot of weaknesses and a lot of hard counters. I've found, but I do think that there's some. I think there's something there. especially in certain pools or certain matchups. It's just it's tough because there are some factions that I just can't declare him into. Neverborn being a great example, and he can have kind of a tough time with Rezzers too. There's just a lot of counters in those two factions. So I've been fiddling around with a couple of different builds or different styles of play for him. Aside from that, most of my other games lately have been Ma and Ophelia. They're both probably my most played masters. Ophelia is my most played master by probably 10 games or more. And then I've played quite a lot of Ma lately too, but I've been trying some different crew builds with her as well, especially with some new models that have come out. I'm really looking forward to using test subjects. So, what about you, Adam?
Just a question. What do you think is the problem with Ultix? What do you think's holding him back?
Well, he's got a couple of issues. So his models, for anybody who's played Euripides, because he's probably a more common master to see on the table. I mean, he's got a new box. He was one of the new masters for 3E. As anybody who plays Euripides can attest, when you have a crew full of 50 millimeter models, they tend to get in each other's way. And where Ulix doesn't have any teleports or anything like that, that it doesn't have any way to gain incorporeal or move through his own models reliably, which Euripides has those things, and they can help alleviate some of the movement stress. Ulix really doesn't. So if you don't set your crew up correctly during deployment, um, or if you're not smart about your order of operations during your turn, you can really box yourself in, cost yourself a lot of AP trying to move around, or just straight up prevent yourself from getting things done. The other problem with Ulix I found is that he's very card hungry. His whole crew is loaded with TNs. I mean, you've got TN 6 and 7 minimum on a ton of his models, sometimes on multiple actions on the same model. And then he also has card pressure and needing to hold cards to discard for protected, to pitch attacks on him off onto other pigs. And he has a front of card ability where you can pitch cards when a friendly pig within 6 is damaged to reduce the damage taken. And he doesn't really have a lot of inbuilt card draw in the crew. He's got 2 models with good for a laugh triggers on their attacks, meaning himself and Old Major. Old Major is not going to be reliably getting that trigger, and the attack that Ulix has with it is not one that you necessarily want to be taking very often. You want to be spending his AP for other things. So even if you take Bryn, you end up running out of hand like real quick, and suddenly you're trying to raw dog your TNs, or you don't have the cards you need to do things like sturdy critters on Ulix or nudge them on Old Major. Um, it's yeah,
And his
there you go.
his TNs aren't super low either. I mean, they're fairly moderate TNs, right? And there's a ton of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, so if you're trying to grow pigs with Ulix, to grow a pig 1 generation, meaning a piglet to a squealer or a squealer to a wild boar or wild boar to war pig, you need an 8, which is like not that hard to come by. You don't even need a suit for it unless you're trying for the trigger, which most of the time you really want the trigger to get a free obey um, a free attempt at an obey. Let me put it that way, off on the model that you just grew. And if you're trying to grow a model 2 generations, you need a 12. So um, you figure, let's just take a Ulix activation right at its face. So let me just pull up Ulix on my app here. Let's see here. So let's just take a Ulix activation. So, let's say we want to do a grow up strong to grow a pig. Okay, well, I'm probably not going to grow something 1 generation unless I just don't have a 12 in my hand. So let's assume that I'm going for a 2 generation grow. I hired in a squealer and I want to grow it to a war pig. So I need to get a 12. Now, let's say we want the some pig trigger to get a herdum action, which is essentially an obey on the new model. So I need a tome for that. So let's say I need a 12 of tomes or a 12 with a stone. So I get that, and then I get to attempt a Herdum. Herdum is an obey. Now I only need a 6 for that, and the suit's built in when I'm targeting a pig, so okay, great. But that's another TN. So now I've gotten 2 TNs off 1 AP. Now I'm probably going to want to do a Herdum on another model, most likely. So there's another 6 that I need. And then assuming there's no other enemies in range to do his whopping 8-inch range attack on, or to attack in melee or what have you, the only other action on his card is his bonus. So really, if there's no enemies in range for either his melee attack or his 8-inch ranged attack, the only things that he can take are Grow Up Strong, which he's going to need an 8 or a 12 for, and he's going to need to take Herdum, which he's going to need a 6 for. So let's say out of his 3 AP, you do 1 Grow Up Strong with the bonus, or with the trigger for a Herdum, and then you do 2 more Herdums. Now you're looking at 3 6s and an 8 or a 12. So just on his own card, that's a lot of TNs.
Yeah, and you're gonna be just flipping cards like crazy. You're gonna inevitably be running to like one of those 1 through 5s, and then it's just you have to pitch another card from your hand.
Exactly.
Yeah,
now I get to flip. Now I get to pitch a 10 to get off my TN6, or something stupid like that.
Yeah, he's not very stone intensive. He's card intensive.
Card intensive.
Yeah.
And then it gets worse because like his totem Penelope also has Herdum. She needs 7s for it.
And that's pretty much all she's doing.
And that's pretty much all she's doing. Exactly. She doesn't really have that much else that she does. Now I take a Hog Whisperer. Hog Whisperer has Herdum, needs 7s. It has a summon, which needs a 5 of Rams. Now he's a minion, so he can't stone for anything. He just has to have the ram. Let's say I take the Sow. So she's the most reliable summoner in the crew. I'm still needing a 6, and it needs to be a 6 of crows unless I got rid of a corpse or scheme marker within 2 inches of her. So again, there's more TNs. Like it just goes on and on and on. There's more and more models in his crew that need TNs. So the only ways that I've found to really mitigate that are to hire in a lucky effigy to help to give the 3-inch aura to cheat off the top of the deck. And that's really only reliable for like the first turn, maybe the second turn, because the Ulix crew is very fast and they end up outranging that aura very quickly. Or taxing in Big Brain Bryn so that I can get the extra hand size, and then I can do Calculate the Possibilities to kind of hopefully thin some weak cards out of the deck. But one of the issues with Calculate the Possibilities, and for anybody who doesn't know how that works, you need a 7 for it to go off. It's another TN. You can only do it once a turn. You discard the top 10 cards of your deck. Choose up to 3 non-Joker cards, put them back in your deck, and then draw a card. So, I mean, it's great because you're drawing a card, you're thinning out the deck. But, I mean, the idea with that is normally that you're going to pull out, like, hopefully 1 to 3 face cards, filter them back into the deck. But I found that because a lot of the cards that he needs, like the TNs that he needs, are only like 6s and 7s, sometimes what ends up happening is you end up filtering a lot of those cards out of the deck because there's obviously so many of them. I mean, you might get a really bad Calculate and you end up having to filter out like a bunch of like 7, 8, 9, 10s just to hopefully shuffle in 1 to 3 face cards, and you end up actually losing a lot of the cards that you need to hit the TN. So it helps, but it doesn't help as much as you'd think.
Yeah, I can see how having the lucky effigy would help, because essentially that's just going to be a positive flip to whatever you're trying to do.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a positive flip if you need it. So there's always the chance that
you won't. But if you do,
cheat and then you fail,
get it. Yeah.
But like a lot of those things, especially first and second turn, it's not super critical that you get the Herdums off. It's going to help a lot, but it's not like going to be game breaking. So it's, you flip the card, you fail. All right, well, I'll try again. And if I still fail, then so be it. Whatever. I got 2 weak cards out, and now the next time that I try for a TN, it's 2 fewer weak cards that are going to fail. So it seems to be the most reliable way that I found to make them work.
Sounds good. Sounds like it sounds like you're cracking it pretty well. You're cracking it pretty well.
Yeah. I recently tried like a Ulix, what I call a Ulix bully list, which seemed to work a lot better than the previous grow lists that I had tried. So the bully list that I took was actually I hired in 2 war pigs right at the start of the game, and I gave them both inferiority complex, um, which is the bayou upgrade that gives them swagger, so they walk and gain a focus. They're going to be doing a lot of walking, so great. It gives them ruthless, which is matchup dependent, but also can be very strong because their willpower is very low. They're only willpower 4. And then because they're minions, they actually get bully, which is huge for them because they have a trigger, I believe, on every suit. And because they're 9 stones, they're going to be hitting stuff that's lower cost than them a lot. And anytime they attack something that's lower cost than them with bully, they can add a suit of their choice.
Which is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. So that seems to be working pretty well. So I'll take 2 of those to hire, and then I'll also hire in a squealer. So if I draw into a 12 or better first turn, I can grow the squealer right away, and now I've got 3 war pigs on the table turn 1.
Yeah, that doesn't sound cheesy at all. That sounds like it's horrible. You should stop doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, there's my long-winded answer of what I've been doing, and thank you for prompting me to talk about Ulix because I have a lot to say about him. Yeah. So Adam, what have you been playing lately?
So, like I said in the introduction, I've been playing Arcanist this year. It's something I've been delaying on for a while, and I think it's mostly because at the end of 2E, Arcanist was essentially just Sandeep, and it put a bad taste in my mouth. But I started it, and I loved them. I did. I tried to focus down on 4 masters, maybe 5. The ones that would see the most rotation in my tournament games. I started off with Colette, and I think she's a blast. I dig her playstyle. I dig a lot of the interact heavy, but also debuffing your lists and just being a general pain in the ass. So I started off with her, and then I moved on to Sandeep because I wanted to see how much he changed, and he changed a little bit. But he's still probably he's a king of all trades. He's not a jack. He has a ton of play in a lot of different scenarios. So I really dug Sandeep, and then I branched off into Hoffman because he was a holdover from my guild from the last year, and Ironsides.
Cool. So kind of looking back, are you happy with your master choices?
Yeah, I mean they cover a lot of the gaps. Just those 3, to be honest with you. I mean, between Colette, Sandeep, and Hoffman, there wasn't a ton in Gaining Grounds 1 that you couldn't do.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
Hoffman's just golden for ley lines, but to make a fast Choraphy duet, do everything you need it to do. And then Colette was perfect for symbols, and Sandeep could just pick up the other 2. I mean, you could even throw Hoffman into public enemies if you wanted to. Generally, it was a decision between Hoffman and Sandeep in public enemies if the scheme pool was right. Like if Research Mission was in the scheme pool, I'm probably always going Sandeep because it's just super easy for him. But yeah, I like those 3. I would have liked to probably branch out and try some of the other masters, but I mean, ultimately, there's nothing that those 3 can't do, and anything else would have been suboptimal.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, strike me as kind of like the top tier masters of the faction. So, I mean, do you think that there are any Arcanist masters that you really were looking forward to trying you didn't get to, or just any you feel like are kind of underutilized?
I kind of like Raspy. I was playing with her for a little bit. I actually played her as a second master with Sandeep a couple times, just because there's a lot of synergy between the elementals. And I usually take a silent one in my Sandeep crew anyway, just because for the healing, because they're solid healers and they can pop out the ice pillars for the golem. But I would have liked to try her out. The problem is I don't know where it is that she would excel that the other ones don't. Really, I mean that's ultimately what it comes down to. I mean, like I know she's supposed to be a control game and she can do the long distance shots and stuff like that. But I mean, ultimately, there are a lot of strats where you need to get to the other side of the board. and you just need to have that mobility. And if you just kill like one or two of her models, everything else is just so slow.
Yeah, I mean that she kind of this is maybe oversimplifying things, but she kind of strikes me as like the Ophelia of the Arcanist faction, where Ophelia is kind of the same way. Like her crew will murder the shit out of you, but if they have to get across the center line to do a scheme, they're going to really struggle. So it seems like choosing Raspy would be heavily terrain and scheme dependent, which is sort of the same way that I look at Ophelia. Like I don't break her out very often, but in the matches that I break her out in, she is oppressive.
Yeah, but even then, like you're saying, like terrain and scheme dependent. If like it's a terrain thing and I want to jam up the enemy, I want to clog up lanes. Let's say I could just bring Sandeep. I could just bring Sandeep and make ice pillars and make pyre markers and just
Yeah,
jam the enemy and still have a million cards to draw and beat them up with golems.
I guess. Yeah, I guess that's kind of a good point. It's that you know in Bayou there are other masters that can do what Ophelia does, but maybe not quite as well. But maybe get a little bit of speed in return. Like Ma would be a good example of that. But like it seems like in Arcanist, Sandeep can do basically everything that Raspy can do, but better.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the thing that with him is he has the card draw, right? He has obeys. He has strong beat 'em up models that are hard to kill. He has summoning. There's nothing he lacks. So if it's not a niche situation where, let's say, you need a lot of interacts, be able to interact in engagement, stuff like that, why wouldn't you take Sandeep?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point.
So,
All right,
but
cool.
that's what I've been playing. So we just had a tournament not too long ago.
Yeah,
We had a pretty good turnout for that. And we had 10 people, which
we had 10.
in,
Yep.
in, in a COVID era, I mean that's not terrible. It was our first live tournament of the year.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah.
was.
Well, no, because we had that Puerto Rico
Oh, that Puerto Rico,
benefit,
yeah, the Puerto
the
Rico
Puerto Rico
release,
benefit
yeah,
tournament. That was in like February, so that was before things got locked down.
yeah, crazy.
But this was our first GG1 event. I believe the Puerto Rico event was still GG0.
Yeah,
Is that?
it might have been.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty sure I played Guild into that.
Yeah, because we set the event up just before GG1 came out, and I didn't want to change all the scheme pools with relatively short notice. So yeah, it was our first GG1.
Yeah. So we played that. And we got some leagues going now. We got some league games getting in, trying to bring some new players into the meta. And people are eager to play. I think the
Yeah,
problem is Malifaux is very much a competitive game. Um, and you can play it obviously non-competitive, but I mean it's a competitive game with a balanced rule set. So I think when there's not a lot of events, tournaments, leagues, etc., it tends to suffer. But now that we've got things going down at our shop and we're able to bring people in, it's starting to grow. We have a couple new players playing. I played a league game last week where I brought out my new faction. I played against Ariel, who's one of our newer players, and she's learning quick. She's learning really quick. She's getting really good. So it's good to see new players come in. It's good to see old players return, and let's get some cards flipping.
yeah, for sure. And like big props to our LGS and its owners Danny and Amy. Danny's been really good about working with us. Me constantly pestering him about trying to make Malifaux a priority and trying to figure out ways that we can encourage play. He and I kind of came to an agreement, and he made I think, a really unusual move for an LGS, in that for our current league, he's actually allowing us to do home games, which in the current pandemic, sometimes because of modified business hours or just people being nervous about going out into public places, is really going to put some folks at ease. I don't think we've had anybody take advantage of doing a home game yet, but just having that flexibility, I think, is it really speaks to him and his want to help us, foster gameplay.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, we're not allowing Vassal just yet into the
right.
league. Um, which I'm okay with. I mean, if anytime I can put actual models on the table and flip cards over Vassal, I'm going to do that. I mean, we played a bunch of Vassal during the early months of the pandemic,
Yeah.
and it it scratched the itch,
Yeah.
but like you can still feel the itch there. You know, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's just it's not the same, I
No.
appreciate what it is. I appreciate what it did. I was in a draft league with a couple of guys from Schemes and Stones, and that was a blast. I was able to try different masters and stuff out, which is something you can do on Vassal because you don't need the actual models. But it's not the same thing as interactive play with another person. Um, and I'm glad we're back to live gaming. I really am.
Yeah, definitely. So with being back to live gaming, I know obviously you've got a new faction that you're cracking into. So what are you looking at playing next? So you kind of partially answered the question with the new faction, but even just like keywords you haven't tried out, unusual crew builds, that kind of thing. So what do you got on the horizon?
I'm moving into Outcasts. I'm doing it. I'm moving into Outcasts. And my goal is to avoid the Leviticus crutch. So I'm not going to play Leviticus. I'm playing non-Leviticus Outcasts. So
That's very brave of you, Adam.
I know,
It's
I
very
know.
brave.
What I've started with, Hamlin. Um, I took him into, like I said, that league game, and I wanted to see how he ticked. I took a lot of his keyword stuff, mostly because I wanted to see how it interacted with each other. And in playing that game, I found I was falling back to a lot of 2E hangover, trying to play him as like the summoner that does the activation control and stuff like that. And he does that. He does control activation control a bit. And you get a ton of AP. But I think his play is less on the summoning point and more on, I think he can tank like a boss. I really do. I mean, he's got just super solid stats at 6 defense, 7 willpower. He's got 12 wounds. He's got 3 models that have stealth and serene countenance. That when he dies, his demise trigger gives him another 5 wounds. Um, I think he can tank. I think he wants to bring models into him with his lure, and then while they try to get out or while they try to do things, throw the blighted all over the place and inevitably just nuke models because that's what he does. I killed Ma in that game we played in I think like 1 turn. Four. She had 4 blight on her, and I was just hitting her with bleeding disease and doing 5 damage a pop. Yeah, I mean you can't hold up to that, and he's not the only model that has it. So once you start spreading that blight around, things just melt. So I think I'm going to give him the Servant of the Dark powers so he can get that extra healing back to even further his tanking. And I'm going to just let Benny summon in the rats to turn into the kings, to turn into the catchers, to do everything else.
Hmm.
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like I've never played against Hamlin in 3E. All the discussion that I've seen on, the internet and in podcasts is that he's a turn 4 and 5 master and you can't play turn 4 and 5 in masters and events because you can't guarantee you're going to get to those turns, and his turns take way too long. He has too many activations, like blah 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 blah. So it's interesting to see somebody taking it in a different way, somebody trying to approach things differently so that you can turn him into a turn 2 and 3 master instead of a turn 4 and 5 master.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. He's definitely got a million activations in his turn. I mean, he's starting off with like 10 models in
Yeah.
his crew, and in that particular game, I took 2 Rat Kings,
Hmm.
and by the end of turn 1, I had summoned in 2 Rat Catchers and brought back those 2 Rat Kings, both with I think like 7 focus on them or something like that. 7 focus, and I drew like 4 cards by the end of the turn. I mean, he has long turns.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for
the
sure.
thing is if you want to play him in a tournament, I think you're gonna have to have those formulas already planned out.
Yeah, you've
And
got to have those activations on rote.
yeah,
Like you just need to be able to blaze through them.
I think
Yeah.
his first turn needs to be almost textbook and like studied, and you know what you're doing with it. Um, because it's going to take time for that first turn. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't summon much after that. I summoned maybe like one more Rat King because at that point all the models have moved out, and then
Mhm.
Benny's only bringing in like maybe one or two rats. Um, but I think that if you have that first turn planned out, then you can shave a lot of time and you can get what you need to get accomplished. That in that game, um, he was really hitting his stride in like turn 3, and then turn
Mhm.
4 everything was just dying.
Yeah.
But I think that was partially because I was still trying to figure out the crew, and I wanted to keep him back. And thinking about it now, I don't really want to keep him back. I want to bring him up a little bit, make you flip against those high stats, try and do damage to him. I'm going to be taking I'm going to be taking the effigy with him because the hodgepodge effigy has that heal, and just keep the tank running while everything else does the work. I think I'll be able to get use out of him. I'm at the point right now with Outcast where I'm trying to plan what masters I'm going to bring into what strats.
Mhm.
So right now, the 4 I'm looking at in Outcasts are the Vix, Tara, Daw, and Hamlin.
Yeah, I like that because I mean, Terra can accomplish things that maybe some of the other masters would struggle with. I mean, Vix have a super fast crew,
Yeah.
but
So I'm gonna probably
Terra's kind of got that toolbox.
I'm thinking of bringing Tara into symbols of authority.
Yeah.
Just being able to teleport and pick up things. It just makes
Yeah. Yeah.
it seems like a no brainer to me. I mean, I don't want to take her into ley lines because of the teleporting,
Yeah.
and then it's just a pain to deal with. So I think I'm going to bring the Vix into ley lines because the Vix have all that crazy extra pushing and movement and
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy movement shenanigans there, and the whole crew is just fast. Um, I'll probably bring Daw into public enemies. I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm still rolling that around in my head.
Yeah.
Um,
Daw's kind of a tough one. I mean, I've played quite a few games against Daw. Obviously, I've never played as Daw. And the Daw games that I've played, I've seen several different play styles of him, but he strikes me as he's more punishing than like Ulix is, but he definitely has some factions that you'd be hard pressed to justify taking him into.
yeah. So generally, like I did with Arcanist, I have like a flex.
Yeah.
And I think the flex with Daw is going to be Daw and Parker. Um,
Yeah.
because I think the matchups that Daw would excel in wouldn't be maybe so great for Parker, but Parker being able to blast stuff on the other side of the table
Yeah.
would be helpful for public enemies. I'm thinking of taking Hamlin into Recover Evidence,
Hmm.
mostly because I want to play him kind of like I did with Ironsides, which was lure things in and then beat them up and then like make them come to me essentially if I can do that with the schemes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, so I mean the things that kind of make me wary of playing Daw are obviously like playing him into 10 Thunders is really risky because they're loaded with Ruthless,
Yeah,
and Ruthless really ruins his day bad, like real bad.
no, it definitely does.
And
That's why
then
I used to
playing,
bring. That's why I used to bring Rasping.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and like playing him into not Arcanist, Rezzers and Bayou is kind of iffy because they both have upgrades that can put Ruthless on whatever they need. So that can be a little bit sketchy. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
just
I
my
kind of thought
observation
about,
with Daw.
playing him into Recover Evidence too, and
Yeah.
just essentially just using Jakuna to lure models in. Everything will end up getting staggered, and I mean,
Mm,
the problem is I just think that Hamlin fits that role better.
yeah.
Especially since with the Rat Kings, if you put the markers on my Rat Kings kill themselves, they drop the markers on my side of the board.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
then like you really have to come to me.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Cool. So what am I doing next? So the two keywords in Bayou that I really haven't played much or any of in 3E so far are Big Hat and Zoraida.
We should be thanking you.
Yeah, I know, right? So Big Hat, I'm going to need a lot of games to crack. It's a very complicated keyword. Um, I think I've got a pretty good handle on how it works. I mean, I've played through a couple of solo games. I've actually done quite a few like solo, like turn one deployments and unpackings with them, which seems to be a real problem for that crew if not done correctly. But I'm very much looking forward to cracking into them. And then Zoraida, I've owned since 2E, but I have never put her on the table, not even once. For no particular reason. I think the crew has always just sort of intimidated me a little bit, and I've always felt like I could accomplish what I needed to with the other masters in my stable. But I feel like she does something truly unique in Bayou now, that other Bayou masters can't really accomplish. So I committed to myself that very soon I need to start working on her keyword. And then additionally, I've dipped my toes into 10 Thunders in the sense that I already own 2/3 of the faction, and only have 4 games in. So um, I have 2 games with Asami, 2 games with Yoko, and I'm very much looking forward to getting Mayfeng, and then maybe eventually Yanlo when he comes out, which I think is like December, January. Um, I also find myself really interested in giving Dua and Umbra a try in Explorer Society. Obviously, not having seen the vast majority of the faction, I don't know if the rest of it would appeal to me. And I don't know how well his crew would operate on their own. But there's once the book comes out and I get a chance to take a look at the rest of the models in the faction, I would say there's a really good chance that I end up just buying into Dua and Umbra, just because I love, based on the tease that they made for him, or that the tease that they put out for him. I really like the way his summoning mechanic works, and I love the whole like Dark City summoning shadows motif for the crew. So I think as far as 10 Thunders, I don't really know that I'm going to play Yoko too much. It only took me 2 games to figure out that she's probably not where she needs to be. I definitely think that she's behind the curve. She's got some cool keyword models, but when your master has entire activations where you're like, wow, I really don't have that much to do with her, then that's a problem in my eyes.
What about Misaki? You gonna take her for a ride, or
Yeah, did I mention Masaki? Oh, I meant to say Masaki. Yeah, so Mayfeng and Masaki are probably the 2 most interesting masters in the faction to me. Asami's really cool, but Masaki just looks like a ton of fun to play, and I can't get over how big her keyword is. Like you could have so much variety in building your crew. I think she's got probably one of the biggest keywords that I've seen, besides maybe Big Hat. Yeah.
yeah? I mean, I played her. She was, I want to say she was my second master, no, my third master in 10 Thunders. When I was playing 10 Thunders, I was playing Lynch, Ganlo, and Misaki. And I used to have a ton of fun with her in 2E. I'm curious
Yeah.
to see. I haven't played her yet in 3E. I haven't seen anybody play her yet in 3E. So I'm actually really curious to see how much her playstyle differs on the table. But I mean, she was a blast in 2A. She's still one of my favorites.
Yeah, seeing the way that kind of reading over her cards and seeing the way she plays it's very it looks like a lot of fun. I mean, she's like burying herself, unburying herself, popping around the table, popping out of shadow markers, attempting to assassinate stuff. Like, yeah, very cool stuff.
Sounds very Seamus like, actually.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Except she doesn't have a 4.68 gun.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. So in this next segment, which I have titled "Prove Me Wrong," me and Adam are each going to take turns talking about one model that we feel like either needs to be buffed, a model that needs to be nerfed, or a model that we feel like is in a good place but is underutilized. So I'm going to start off. My model is my old Bayou buddy McTavish.
Well, let's start off with: is this going to be a buff? Is this going to be a nerf, or is it going to
Yeah,
be use more?
I'm getting there. So McTavish needs some love. He is probably one of the saddest 9-stone models that I've seen in the game. And I'm not going to go over everything on his card, but let's just put it this way. So he's a 9-stone model. He's defense willpower 5. He has no other defensive tech aside from being a henchman. So no hard to wound, no hard to kill, nothing like that. The best that he can do is, as one of his 2 bonuses, he can put a concealing terrain marker in front of himself, which is not going to do anything in melee. And his other bonus action is one that you're frequently going to be taking basically anytime after maybe turn 1. You're probably going to be taking his Gator Snack action every turn. That Gator Snack bonus action requires a scheme scrap or corpse marker within 2 inches of him, so it's a fairly small area. And then you have to flip a card for a random effect, which obviously the card can be cheated, but that's some card pressure, just to get whatever it is that you want to happen with that bonus. And he could get a free melee action out of it, not a gun action, which is a big deal. Free melee action. He could draw a card, he could reposition, or he can drop a friendly scheme marker. So there's some neat tech with that, but because of the limited range and the requirement for a marker near him, it's not always going to be an option. So he's got expert shot, so he can ignore friendly fire. His long carbine is a 14-inch range and ignores concealment. So, I mean, the only thing that's really hindering him is line of sight blocking terrain and cover. But he's only stat 5 for a 9-stone model that clearly has a focus on... Yeah, exactly. So stat 5 on a 9-stone model with a clear focus on using his gun. Great range. He only has 1 trigger on a crow to discard a card, and his damage track is 245. So, like, basically all of Parker's crew of models that matter are 245, and sure, they're stat 5, a lot of them, but they also have built-in positive flips. So they essentially ignore concealment because of the positive flips, much like he does on his long carbine. And then when they're not actually trying to shoot into concealment or friendly fire, they just have a positive flip, which is great. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have any way to increase his damage track. He doesn't have onslaught, or he doesn't have swift action, rather, to take the action again. He doesn't have critical strike. He doesn't have puncture on his melee, on his ranged attack, anything like that. So he's stuck at a 245 damage track, stat 5 on a 9-stone model. It's ridiculous. He's got a decent melee attack. I'll give him that. Stat 6, 1-inch engage, 345, real good damage track. Has puncture, not built in, but has access to it. And he does have execute, which is not built in, because that would be ridiculous. Having access to execute that you can stone for can be a very big deal, but usually it requires that he activate very late in the turn, and it's not going to be reliable until probably minimum end of turn 3, when your opponent is probably out of stones and probably has no cards left. And that means he has to be in melee. And he's only stat 5 defense, stat 5 willpower with 9 wounds. So if my opponent puts any amount of heat into him, he is going to be dead before his melee attack is truly going to matter. So rather than me just bitching about McTavish, the fixes that I would give to him would be just bump his gun to stat 6. I don't think that's out of the question. I don't necessarily think that he needs crit strike, because having crit strike on a henchman with a 245 gun would probably be a little too much, because then he could theoretically go up to a min 4 on his gun, which is really kind of over the top. But maybe give him puncture on his gun. Not built in, but just have the option, so that you can stone 4 and try and hit that 4-5. I think that going up to stat 6, maybe adding puncture, and then just give him hard to wound. Hard to wound goes a long way when you're working with a henchman with 9 wounds. Keep his defense 5, keep his willpower 5, but he needs something else to help keep him up. So
Okay.
there we go.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. Okay.
Sure.
So I can agree defensively that he is not exactly an all-star. Okay, it's 5'5", 9 wounds. I mean, granted, he has access to stones, but um, thing I think we need to recognize though is that he is, while he's versatile, he is in fact a swamp fiend, and so he's going to be brought with Zoraida, and his 2, 4, 5 damage track on his log carbine goes a lot more, goes a long way more when you have focus, and Zoraida can obey him to focus. Um, I think that, and also his speed is only 5. He's move 5, but he has a 3-inch move at the start of it from on the move. He's unimpeded, and also remembering Zoraida, so obeys. So I think, well, I do think his survival tech needs maybe a touch of a bump. Um, I think his damage output actually is probably fine where it is. I think they wanted to really establish that he is a melee monster first, and then has access to a gun. I mean, there's a ginormous alligator on his base, and there's an itty bitty gun. So I think that's the direction they were going for that. Um, so I don't think his damage output is that bad. And I don't even think the stat 5 is that bad because it's kind of his secondary weapon. I do think his survivability is kind of like dog shit.
Yeah, it's real bad. And I mean, to your point about his mobility, he does have the on the move. He is move 5. He, there's the obeys and all that. Also, when you're using Gator Snack, you do get a 2-inch push towards whatever marker you're removing, and then you can theoretically hit the mask to move him up to 3 inches. It's not a trigger, so you can't stone for it. But if you have like a low mask, you can pitch on the flip, then that can give him even a little bit more movement. So he is relatively quick, all things considered.
I think
Yeah,
they're really trying to make you rely on that swamp screen to stay alive, popping up the concealing markers and then like moving them into him at the end of his turn.
right.
But
But
then you're
they
not
don't
gator,
work in melee.
but then you're not, yeah, but then you're not gator snacking either.
Right, you're not Gator snacking, and the concealment doesn't help you in melee. And his greatest amount of damage output is in melee,
And he can't survive melee.
but he can't survive melee.
Yeah.
So I feel like just adding hard to wound would be sufficient. I think that would put him at a place that I would consider taking him, because like if I'm playing Zoraida, just because he's a swamp fiend doesn't mean that I'm going to take him in Zoraida. There's plenty of other swamp fiends that I can take to arc off of. And if you're looking for a gun in Zoraida, you just take Rami out of Ophelia's crew, because he's 3 stones less, and I think, prove me wrong, that he's the best sniper in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I'm agreeing with you. He needs something. I don't think he's really that bad though. I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
He might not be that bad, but I feel like he doesn't do anything that other models in the faction in any given keyword or other versatiles can do, potentially for less stones. So why would I ever take him?
I think you're just mad from his drop off from Tui, where he was a borderline all star. You used to take him in absolutely every crew ever. So
Well, I could be talking about Bert right now,
yeah.
but
So. I mean, he's bad, but let me tell you something. He's going into my pick for a model that needs some kind of buffs. He is not.
Boy.
He is not Winged Plague bad.
Oh, Winged Plague. Let me pull up Winged Plague so I can follow along while you rant.
Oh boy, they're pretty bad. I mean,
okay, here goes. Go to it, sir.
Okay, well they're four stones. Okay, which remember 4 stones you already have in your head what they're going to be. They're not going to be terribly hitty. They're not going to be terribly survivable, but they should do something. And Wicked Plague do nothing. they do absolutely nothing. I mean, they have flight, but they're only a move 5, and they have like no other movement shenanigans. I can see what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be like what depleted used to be, which was like tiny little pits, tar pits, or just ways to get blight out. They're supposed to jam up the enemy's models, and then they beat them up, and then they blow up and they spread blight around. But the problem is you're spending 4 stones to do that, and they're not even going to get there turn one. So they're not any faster than anything else you already have. And like their attack is rubbish. They have it's a stat 4 1 inch against defense. It's a 1 2 4, whatever it is. What it is? It's a 4 stone model. But they don't. The tactical action: remove 2 blight tokens from target enemy model. Drop ski marker in base contact with the target. Like when are they going to be around where there's multiple blight tokens on a target? They're stat 5. They're stat 5 defense, stat 4 willpower with 4 wounds. They're going to die to a stiff breeze. They do nothing. They do nothing in this crew. There's really no synergy other than like just blowing up and putting blight everywhere with the Hamlet crew.
Yeah,
I
and
would,
4 stones is a big ask just to maybe give out 1 or 2 blight
yeah,
in the whole
I would
game.
rather just take 2 rats.
Yeah.
2 rats is 4 stones. At least it's 2 different things you have to try and kill, and I can turn them into something else. Like I cannot see a point that I would ever take a winged plague in a game ever. Like they're almost as
Yeah.
bad. They're almost as bad as desperate mercs.
That festering wounds action
Actually,
is terrible.
desperate mercs might be better.
I think desperate marks are better. Yeah. That festering wounds action they have is just terrible. Remove 2 blight tokens to drop a scheme marker.
When am I ever going to want to remove 2 blight tokens? Ever.
Oh god.
Assuming
Yeah,
that this thing is even alive to begin with.
Oof. Oof.
I don't know. It's just bad. It has like some kind of crazy like push at the end phase. It can push 6 inches towards a model that doesn't have a blight token on it. So you're looking at 16 inches of movement, I guess, turn one. But then I'm not spending 4 stones on that.
So what would you do to fix them?
I think that you could make them into scheme runners. Really, I mean that's what but I don't even know how you would do that with them. Maybe like you'd have to put up some kind of concealment cloud or something. You know what I mean? Like just like Pigpen from Peanuts. He's just got this cloud all around him or something. Maybe cloud of flies, something like that. I mean, I don't know what you do with them. I don't know. Just
So
the problem is if they were cheaper than 2 rats, let's say, maybe if they were 3 points, I could take them. I could reasonably see in my head, I'm going to take these models that are dirt cheap and throw them at the enemy and blow them up and get some blighted out. But if I was to take, let's say, 2 of these, that's 8 stones. That's 8 stones for 2 models that are supposed to die. That just the trans the conversion rate doesn't seem like it's right there.
So I guess what if you made them better at giving out blight? Because that seems to be kind of what they were designed for, was to give out blight.
I mean,
So what if they change the plague spreads to, instead of during the end phase, maybe triggering at the start of their activation? So if there's an enemy model with no blight within 6 inches when they activate, they can push 6 inches towards it.
I mean, I guess that would help.
And then they get 2 crappy stat 4 attacks that'll potentially give out some blight. And then if they get killed, they give out blight. Maybe bumping their demise ability up to 2 blight, because getting a demise for 1 blight, it doesn't super seem worthwhile, and it might be something that your enemy doesn't really care that much about. Like, all right, I'll gain 1 blight token
Yeah,
for killing this thing.
or maybe
Gaining 2 is like, ooh, maybe that's not a great idea.
Or maybe just buff the aura so it's 3 to match with the diseased aura he has, right? And I mean, diseased enemy models start their activation within 3, gain a blight token. So make the demise the same thing. So he pops up there when they start, and they try to kill him. He gets a blight token. When they eventually kill him, they get a blight token. But yeah, the end phase thing is where it's tough, because I have to put him in a position where he's 6 inches out, because he's not going to get there with 10 inches. 6 inches out, hope that you don't just kill him before he gets there, because like 1 heavy hit will kill him with his mediocre stats at best. And then when he does push in there, it's not it's not the translation to a 4 stone cost of him just dying and putting out a blight. You know,
Hmm.
so I don't
So,
know what's wrong. I don't
geez.
know what to do with them. I don't. I honestly don't know.
So I like the idea of bumping their demisability up to 3 inches. I like the idea of making their plague spreads ability start of activation. That's another idea.
I think you need to
Or
drop them to stone.
I mean, if they left him as is, maybe. But a 3 stone active. So if we learned anything from Malifaux, 2E, and Bayou, it's that a 2 or 3 stone significant activation is a problem. Um, Even with pass tokens being a thing, it's still a problem, especially when something has, it's only move 5, but it still has flight. So what if they just left this guy alone, aside, and just gave him hard to kill and left everything else the same? Because then it's gonna hard to kill with 4 wounds means that usually it's gonna take 3 hits to kill him. So it's not like a huge difference from just having 4 wounds. And if somebody swings on him with min 3, it's still just gonna be 2 hits to kill him. So it's not like a huge change.
So here's the thing: is Hamlin has a tactical action
Hmm.
where he blows up vermin,
Hmm.
and the winged plate are obviously vermin. So I can
Sure.
see where he could send them in, and then like if they don't die, blow them up. But the problem is they never get there. They just,
Do you think hard to kill would be enough to get them there?
I think it would help. It would
What if you did
help.
hard to kill and the adjustment to the plague spreads? Do you think that's too good for 4 stones?
I don't know. I don't know.
I kind of like that.
I like the place. I like the change to plague spreads. I actually think just that would go a long way because being
Hmm.
able to get them in early makes the enemy have to either deal with them or get out. And if they don't deal with them, then Hamlin can blow them up anyway.
Yeah. And it's not like your opponent doesn't have some way of blocking plague spreads because, I mean, they can't use flight when they take the push, so they can still block them with other models and stuff like that. So there's still an opportunity for your opponent to play against it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I like that.
even then, I would only probably ever take one of these things,
Yeah, and that's fine.
just as a kind of mini nuke to get the blight train rolling early on.
Hmm.
Um, but the way it is now, I mean, they just die before they ever get anywhere.
Hmm. And I don't think there's anything wrong with an early activation that just has a little bit of extra speed and throws a couple of trash stat 4 attacks that have auto blight on them.
Yeah, and he's not
I
well.
mean, that's
He's not even going to end up using the speed or the attacks from maybe one from a charge, but I mean
yeah,
that's not the point. The point is to get him engaged with things.
yeah,
It's to put him in a position where he's problematic, and you have to either go around him or kill him. Like the way it
yeah.
is now, they can just largely ignore him or just like
Hmm.
shoot him twice and just kill it.
Yeah, they're definitely super weak to super weak to ranged.
Yeah, there's nothing protecting him at all.
Hmm.
So I
Give them like I guess some kind of. Never mind. That's a bad idea.
well, look,
All right.
what
Anyway,
concealment cloud?
yeah, I was gonna say you could give them not sputtering exhaust like the 2 inch aura, but maybe just like cloud of flies. This model has,
This
has
model counts
concealment.
as concealed. Yeah,
Right.
it counts as having concealment, or even
Right.
just stealth.
Stealth might be too good for 4 stones.
Well, I mean,
Anyway.
yeah.
Anyway.
I digress.
Yeah, but I think you're right. They're definitely the way they stand. I can't, not knowing the Hamlin crew, I still can't really see taking one. They don't seem like they do anything that the crew would need. So, all right. So I guess for kind of our last segment, we have Explorer Society coming out next week. We're recording the week before Thanksgiving, and the Explorer Society book should be coming out on Black Friday. And I know that some of the playtesters would be getting it. I'm not sure if they'd be getting theirs around the same time or maybe just after. But very shortly, we're going to have a brand new faction that we'll be able to talk about for some time to come. So one thing that Adam and I would like to do is just do model breakdowns. We're each going to pick one model or a pair of models. Um, and, we'll probably even do this after ES gets released rather than doing full, keyword breakdowns, especially where without getting some reps in, we might not really understand how the keywords work. we can still look at some individual models and see how we feel like they might fit into the faction, or how we would play them if they were in our faction. So I believe Adam, yeah, you can take it first.
Okay, so the recent leak that we have is Dr. Beebe and Calypso. And oh boy, listen, I'm okay, straight up, I'm gonna. So Games Workshop hurt me, um, and we had a long relationship, and they kept doing the same thing, which was the power creep, right? So that's notoriously what Games Workshop is guilty of, is generally power creep. So I'm not going to lie and say that I'm not concerned about power creep. I think Weird as a whole does a lot better job wrangling it in. If you go back to 2E, we got to the later books and it started to set in, and that's when we kind of knew we needed a new edition. But so there are some things on this card that concern me a little bit. Okay. Deep Discovery. Once per activation, when this model would cheat fate, it may discard a card to cheat fate with the top non-joker card of the opposing player's discard pile. It's already kind of it's kind of slightly different Old Ways, right? And I think Old Ways actually has a lot of play. But what makes this problematic is he also has the ability called Reconfigure, which is, in this case, it's a tome. This model may treat any tome cards it cheats fate with as having a value of 9. So just being able to spam 9s is going to be huge. Do you disagree? Do you agree?
No, no, I mean, not at all. I mean, there are plenty of situations where, especially the tail end of the turn, when you don't have a ton of cards on either side, where you know you're flipping like a 3 and your opponent's flipping a 5 and they're still hitting you, and all of a sudden you can cheat. I mean, this is kind of a a niche case, but like all of a sudden you can cheat with the one of tomes that's on the top of their discard pile, and now all of a sudden you've got a 9.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of a corner case thing. I'd have to double check the rule on how cards in the conflict are treated. I don't think that they actually go to your discard pile until after the conflict. So,
But wait, there's more.
oh wait.
Another Man's Trash. When this model activates, it may draw any 2 non-joker cards from its discard pile with a value of 5 or less. Meaning a value of 5 or less tome, which then becomes a 9.
A 9,
so
right.
he's drawing 2 9s.
Especially if he's going late in the turn, there's a good chance he's drawing 2 9s.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah.
And there's no discard requirement for that unless you're above max hand size. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and so I like the concept of this guy. I really do. I like that you have the pilot. I like that you have the tank. I like that he's able to do his abilities from inside of it. And a lot of that I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with him being armor 2. I don't have a problem with the hit boxes. It's really just that mechanic of Deep Discovery, Reconfigure, and Another Man's Trash that just seems to me it's a lot of 9s, and 9s are a pretty high card when you can just spam them.
Yeah, for sure.
What concerns me is that out of those 3, I mean, we know that they like to carry a lot of abilities through keywords, and I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be evasive. That's on his card, so it's going to be probably one of those 3.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, you just look at Oh, it's not going to show it on there. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I very much doubt that it's going to be evasive, and it's certainly not Master Pilot. So, I would say,
No.
in all likelihood, it's going to be Deep Discovery, Reconfigure, and Another Man's Trash. If I had to place bets on it, I would say it's going to be Reconfigure, especially where there's a suit on it. That would imply that there are other models in the keyword that have Reconfigure with different suits.
Yes. So
which is even a bigger problem, because it's not like they're all using Reconfigure tomes, most likely.
Yeah.
So you could have reconfigures of every suit in your keyword.
Correct. You could just be spamming low cards. So imagine this, like your entire hand is full of 9s or better. That's what you're looking at. right?
Yeah,
If you play it
basically.
right, your whole hand is nines or better.
And the incentive at that point to pitch stones for cards at the start of the turn is greatly reduced because now you're looking at all these cards in your hand like, okay, well,
Correct.
maybe I can't use these for every single model, but there we go.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure I don't know. I mean, the only target number I see is a 10, so he can't cheat in that tome for that.
Ah, Adam, but he can.
Oh,
But he
really?
can. Oh yeah.
How is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. So, hold on. I gotta find it. Where is it? So,
Oh, +1 to the action duels.
yep, there it is.
Yeah,
+1 to
so he
the
can
action.
cheat in that 9 and still
Yeah,
get.
Master It's right on Master Pilot, so he can cheat in the 9 and it still gets bleeps and sweeps off. Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
boy.
Oh
I mean,
boy is
they're
right.
cool. I mean,
And,
what is he?
did you actually look at bleeps and sweeps?
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, I
So,
did.
no resist
Yep.
needs a 9 to go off,
Which
which he
he
can do
any tome.
with reconfigure. 4-inch pulse off of how big is Calypso? A 50 mil model. So 4-inch pulse off of a 50 mil model to give out injured with no resist.
Yeah.
And then you can also potentially move an enemy towards or in any direction. And you can drop scrap.
Yeah, more
And
likely.
you can use the scrap to rebuild Calypso if it gets destroyed.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing, discard any number of cards, remove target scheme marker, summon Calypso into base contact with this model with health equal to twice the number of cards discarded. Well, conveniently enough, he's drawing 2 cards at the start of his activation. So, worst comes to worst, he's going to bring it back in with 4 health with the 2 cards that he just drew for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a tank, right? He is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's cool. I just
Yeah.
don't know if he's going to be a problem, and if he's going to be a problem with those particular keyword traits that we assume they might be, what's everything else going to be like
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you hire in Beebe and Calypso because of the original creator thing on Calypso, you're only paying 10 stones for those 2
for
models.
both of them? Yeah,
Yeah. And sure, Calypso's only 6 wounds, can't stone, armor 2, but on Beebe's activation, he can just automatically heal at 4 with his welder.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, I see some counters to this, right? Like
Yeah.
anything that can attack buried models, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to beat
Yeah.
up on Beebe. Anything that gets rid of armor is going to cut right through him. He is he is a 6'5" when he has Beebe in there.
Mhm.
I mean, he's not. I don't want to say he's broken by any stretch because I don't think he is. I think he's incredibly good. It's just that deep discovery can reconfigure, and then another man's trash on top of it. It just seems like
Yeah.
a lot.
And, looking at Calypso, that's another clue that Deep Discovery and Reconfigure are probably the keyword abilities, because on Vehicle, the front of card ability for it, it says that if any friendly model has a pilot upgrade attached, this model gains that model's willpower value and any of their Deep Discovery or Reconfigure abilities, if any.
Which alludes to being more than one.
Yeah. So I would say, in all likelihood, those are probably the keyword abilities.
Yeah, but pretty good. I mean, I think
Pretty
they look
good.
cool. I like the concept like a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll see, right? I mean, everything looks busted when you first look at it, but maybe we'll see how it looks on the table and
Yeah, for
adjust
sure.
accordingly. How about you?
Yeah. So I was originally going to talk about English Ivan, but I decided that it would be tough to talk about a summoner without actually being able to see all of his summons. So instead, I decided on the next most recent tease, which was Anya Lycarayen, the Syndicate Master, and her dope ass totem, the Thunderbird Sovereign.
Dude, that looks so badass, doesn't it?
Yeah, that model's gonna look killer. I can't wait to see how people paint up that lightning bolt striking the ground around the thing. It's gonna look awesome.
Yeah,
All the lighting effects people are gonna be able to do with it. It's gonna be cool.
you're playing ACDC as you set it on the table.
Yeah, exactly. So with Anya, the first thing that strikes me is that she's only 13 stones, which obviously is below the curve for most masters. Now she's only 10 wounds, but she's got some cool stuff. She's got Price of Progress, which, because we saw Winston Finnegan as, I think he was like the first or the second tease for Syndicate, we know that Price of Progress is one of the keyword abilities. And I think you and I are probably on the same page with Price of Progress. And just to get everybody up to speed, this says, after this model declares an action, it may suffer 1 damage to add any 1 suit to its dual total. I think you and I are probably both on the same page in that should be irreducible.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know how ready access to shielded is within the faction, but just being able to mitigate that with shielded seems like a really big deal. I don't think anybody's going to be stoning to reduce damage when they could have just stoned for the suit. But yeah, so Price of Progress, I think, could potentially be a problem. I'd have to see how much healing is available to the crew or the faction as a whole, because if there's not ready access to healing, then that Price of Progress, even not being irreducible, is probably a much bigger cost. As somebody who plays Bayou, especially Rooster Riders, Reckless comes at a significant cost, much bigger than it appears. So the other thing that really strikes me with her is that she is a master, obviously a Soulstone user with a high wound pool with hostile work environment. Anybody who's played against, what do you call it, Anna Lovelace in Rezzers knows how incredibly frustrating hostile work environment can be for some crews. And just looking at the rest of the stuff on her card with her slightly lower cost at 13, her high durability, her moderate damage output, and her pretty damn good mobility, hostile work environment seems like a really good out of keyword hire. Like, I would strongly consider hiring her into a lot of crews if I felt like I could tech with that. You don't really see it too much there. I mean, I don't think there are that many models in the game that even have it. I think it's the only ones that I know of are Sparks and Anna Lovelace. Let me check the app and we'll see if there's any more.
Now I'm looking.
Yeah, it's literally just Sparks and Anna Lovelace. So this Anya would be the third model in the game with that ability.
I'm looking at the back of her card here, and man,
yeah, she's got a lot going on.
Stat 7 attack that does 2, 3, 4, and because you can just take a damage to do any of the triggers, you can just do it. And you get to look at the top card of the Fate deck.
Right, and that's just built in.
That's just built.
So Stat 7, 1-inch engage, which is decent. Built in, look at the top of the Fate deck. She can stone or Price of Progress for Siphon Life. So that's +1 damage and 1 heal. So think about that. You're Price of Progressing to do +1 damage and healing
1 damage
to negate the damage that you took from Price of Progress.
Man.
And she has Blade Rush, so she can charge through stuff and deal free damage to them in the process.
And then she has a free action.
And well, we're not done with the melee attack yet. So the other thing is she can give out stunned with her melee attack. Stunned is huge.
Yeah, but reliably,
and the fact,
give out stunned.
Yeah, with a stat 7 attack. Ugh, that's so brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about our bonus action.
Oh, Bleeding Edge?
Yeah, Bleeding Edge. Tell me about Bleeding Edge, Adam.
It's a 6-inch range gun icon. Stat 4, target number 10, so she needs a 6 for it to go off. And you drop a scheme marker completely within range. And then enemy models in the area between that model and the drop marker must take a target X defense duel or suffer 2 damage, where X is equal to the action's final duel total.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a lot for a free action.
It's a lot for a free action, and then you take a look at the fact that she has Steel Momentum as a crow, so it's actually also like a leap.
Yeah.
How about that?
Oh, that she can, just take a damage to do.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So, I mean, you can see where this is going with her with the Price of Progress. Like, it's very easy to see how much you could overextend her health pool with Price of Progress. Especially because you do have to declare when you have to declare using it when you declare the action before you even flip any cards or anything like that. So, I mean, with a stat 7 tomahawk and, you know, only needing a 6 to get bleeding edge off, like, you're probably not going to fail the duels all that often. But if you price of progress and then you still fail, like, that's kind of a big deal. But yeah, I mean, we're talking move 6 with a leap.
With a leap equivalent, yeah.
A leap equivalent. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. And then actually, it's almost even a little better than a leap. Well, hold on. No, it says completely within range. So yeah, it's essentially the
Well, I mean,
same
it is
as
better
a leap.
because it's making you take defense duels or something.
Yeah, it's a leap that's also causing defense tools. So in terms of raw movement, it's essentially the same as a leap, but it's also having an added effect.
Yeah.
And then, so kind of moving on to her next ability, we've got Union Buster. So range 6, choose either toward or away. Push all models within 2 inches of the target up to 2 inches in the direction, in the chosen direction of the target, and there are no resists on that.
Just happen.
None. It just happens.
Yep.
You don't have to flip to make it happen. Your opponent doesn't get to flip to try and deny it. Sure, it's only a 2-inch push, and you still have to target a model. But in a game where getting bumped 2 inches out of range of objective or the center of the board or a take prisoner target or what have you can be the difference between scoring and not, to be able to do that with no flip and no resist is pretty strong.
And I mean, you got, granted, it's a one action to do it, but you have that free action that just moves you.
Right. And she is a master, so she's got 3 AP all the time.
Yeah.
So, and then last but not least, we've got Hostile Takeover. So this is another unique one. I don't think there's anything else with this ability in the game. So needs a 6 of masks to go off once per activation. Target a scheme marker. Push the target up to 2 inches in any direction and drop a scheme marker in base contact with it. Then remove the target. So you're moving one of your scheme markers, or you're turning one of your opponent's scheme markers into yours. And then if you hit one of the 2 triggers, so focus cleansing, this model heals 2 and may end a condition on itself. So there's a little bit of self-healing for her. Now, bear in mind, it is a 1 action. So, you might not necessarily be doing it just for the heal, and you need a scheme marker to target. And then liquidation, enemy models within 2 inches of the drop marker must pass a TN 13 willpower duel or suffer 1 damage and gain stunned.
So I'm looking at this. Couple things. Push target a scheme marker. It doesn't say anything about an enemy scheme marker.
Right. Any scheme marker.
Any scheme marker, which she happens to drop with bleeding edge.
Right.
You do need a mask for it. So you do need a mask for it to go off, which means you can't just price of progress it. You need to price of progress or stone and have the card, or some combination of that. So it's not super easy to do. Healing 2 is going to be huge, though, especially
healing 2 is big. Yep.
With her, especially. I think it's situationally brilliant.
Yeah, definitely situationally brilliant. That's a good way to put it.
It's not something she's going to do all the time, but when she can do it, it's going to be because it's going to change the game significantly.
Right, and just the fact, and that's a good pull on the bleeding edge thing. So just the fact that she can set herself up to do hostile takeover with her bonus action, dropping a scheme marker, and then using hostile takeover and getting that liquidation trigger to force a 2-inch pulse of 13 willpowers and to gain damage and stunned.
Yeah.
When with bleeding edge, she's also potentially causing some defense duels to cause more damage. Like, that's a lot of simple duels, and especially if you can activate her a little bit later in the turn, I mean, there's the potential to hand out a whole lot of stunned between hostile takeover and her tomahawk.
Yeah, I mean, you also it's a 13 on the willpower duel, and then the defense duel could be who knows what. It could be massive. I mean, she's pushing out a lot of, so she pushes out a lot of simple duels. She has a stat 7 melee attack that doesn't do a ton of damage, but could potentially do a ton of damage. She's very good for her cost.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about her leader only ability, which, I mean, I've been thinking about her mostly as a hire, and like I would I'd pay 14 stones for her.
Oh, expansionist, yeah, so
Yeah.
I like it a lot
So,
actually.
expansionist, her leader ability. Enemy models treat friendly scheme markers within this model's line of sight, no range limitation, and the area within 1 inch of those scheme markers as hazardous.
Hey, you know how she can just drop a scheme marker?
Yeah.
Bleeding edge.
And then move that scheme marker.
Yeah, and then move it right into 1 inch of all your guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like push it right under your models because there's no reason she can't do that.
I mean, she's very good. She's
Oof,
very good.
man.
I think I mean, she's got hard to kill, but when she gets to hard to kill, she's kind of neutered as far as price of progress. So she can't just price of progress to get the triggers that heal her.
Right.
She only has 10 wounds. She's a 6/5, so it's good but not great. Um, I mean, she's very good. She's a master, and she should be.
Yeah.
But I don't. Again, I don't think she's broken.
No, I don't think she's broken. And I think that thing about price of progress that we've been talking about, especially with her only having a 10 wound pool, and yeah, she has a little bit of built-in healing on her card, but it's not even really built in. She has some healing potential on her card. We'd have to see how the rest of the keyword and faction hash out in terms of availability of healing. But on her face, yeah, I mean, she seems great. Not broken, but great. And she does a lot of unique stuff that I have not seen anywhere else in the game.
Oh yeah. Also, let's not forget Sovereign can just like carry her.
Yeah, so let's talk about Sovereign. So Sovereign is her totem. He's a 6 wound armor 2 totem with move 7 flight. Has price of progress, obviously. And then once per activation with Sound of Thunder, after this model is moved, enemy models within 2 inches of it must each pass a TN12 defense duel or suffer 1 damage and gain stunned. So more access to stunned. I think that might be the same ability as the Shadow Emissary. But at any rate, it has one that's very similar to it. And then as far as its attacks go, I mean, it's got a stat 6 melee with a 2/3/6 damage track and access to puncture, which it can price of progress for.
That 6 is big.
That 6 is huge.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, price of progress is going to mean a little more for Sovereign, being only 6 wounds.
Yeah, and that's a big pull. And again, this goes back to my experience with Bayou. So we have mechanized pork chop, which is armor 2 6 wounds and has reckless, and using that reckless is a significant cost.
Yeah, but Sovereign can heal himself. Granted, it's a 1 action, but he can heal himself.
Yeah. He also, as I see, he also has a tome trigger on his melee, which can heal other friendly syndicate models within 4 because it's a pulse. So okay. He's got a shockwave, which let's see here. Stat 5 needs a 7 once per activation. Shockwave 2. Shockwave 2 is a big deal. Move 13 is a decent duel. Damage 2 and stunned.
Once per activation, though.
Still. So he can stun with just by moving with Sound of Thunder. He can stun with his once per activation Shockwave. He can get Cataclysm to drop a second Shockwave marker anywhere within range and line of sight. So 2, it's only range 6, but 2 Shockwave 2 markers is pretty damn good. And then he has Fly With Me, which is typical. It also has the heal friendly syndicate models within 4, so he's got that on all 3 of his actions. Actually, the Glory of Ridley trigger.
Yeah. Did you notice the second half of Thunderstruck, where he can ignore the effects of the shockwave and instead heal 2?
I didn't actually see that. I was reading over it too quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. He can heal himself.
It's pretty slick.
He can heal himself too. He can heal himself too every turn.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And and Fly With Me, he can just make enemy models within a 4-inch pulse of him suffer 1 damage. And he's a 50 mil model.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah, that's a pretty damn good totem.
Yeah.
Obviously, if somebody has any kind of armor piercing, then they're going to tear him up with only defense 4 and 6 wounds.
Yeah,
but
I can see you quickly being able to neuter him just by getting a couple of hits into him, because he's only defense 4, so you chip away on him even though he's armor 2. But once you take like 2 wounds off of him, then when you price a progress, he's already down to 4. It's going to be hard to get that back up.
He's in danger zone at that point.
Yeah, I mean he's 7 stones, so I mean he's not, he's not going to be terribly impressive, but I mean
Right.
he's good. I like him.
And so here that begs the question. So with me talking about potentially hiring Anya as an out of keyword master, would you ever hire Sovereign as an out of keyword totem for 8? Oof.
No, because you figure that's 22 for the both of them.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
That's a big chunk.
It's a big ask.
Yeah, it's a big chunk.
Yeah. I don't think I'd hire him.
No,
I would just
but as a free 7-stone model, yes, please.
Yeah.
He's pretty
damn good.
and he looks awesome.
He does.
He just looks so good.
He does.
I see him on the back of like some guy's T-shirt with like chrome effects in the background or something like that.
So we've been talking for an hour and a half. How about that?
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's crazy.
So let's wrap this thing up.
Hopefully we've sufficiently bored everybody with our conversation.
With our conversation, exactly. So how do you get in touch with us? Well, we do have a Boring Conversation Facebook page. I've also made a Discord server. You can also check out the Knights of the Round Base Instagram page. We're going to have links to all of those in the show notes. Ways to get in touch with me. You can easily get in touch with me on Facebook. I'm active in the Bayou and Ten Thunders Facebook groups and the associated Facebook chats. And on the weird forums, I go by Jive Tyrant. Jive Tyrant. That harkens back to my Warhammer 40k Tyranid heritage. And Adam, how do folks get in touch with you?
Well, I kind of facilitate the Knights page myself and our friend Jared we mentioned before. So if you want to just message us on the Knights of the Round Base Instagram page, or you can contact me on Facebook Messenger. I'm part of the guild groups. I'm also part of an Arcanist group. I pop in every now and then onto a weird place. You can also reach me on the forums at Lawgiver A554. And that's how you do it.
Cool. Well, thanks to anybody who's hung out with us this long. Hopefully I get this episode published as quickly as possible. And we look forward to talking to you next time. So stay weird, folks. Hey everyone, I'm Jesse.
Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm a meat popsicle.
You fucking asshole. All right, let's try that again. You caught me off guard with that.
Okay.
Right. Hi everyone, I'm Jesse.
Hi, I'm Adam. And I forgot what I was going to say. Shit.
Fucking meat popsicle.
All right. Meat popsicle.
All right, 4th time's the charm. We got this.
Hold on. Let me think.
You're not going to do meat popsicle? That's fucking great.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll do a meat popsicle.
All right.